87 people lost their lives in the deadliest arson attack in New York City's history. But it wasn't just the fire that claimed so many lives. It was the only exit being blocked by flames. How did a night of celebration end in unimaginable tragedy? The Happy Land Social Club fire occurred on March 25, 1990, in the Bronx, New York City. After being ejected from the club, an arsonist returned with gasoline, poured it at the building's only main exit, and set it on fire. The flames and toxic smoke spread rapidly through the crowded nightclub, trapping patrons inside. With no safe escape route, many victims were overcome by smoke before they could get out. The tragedy claimed 87 lives, making it one of the deadliest nightclub fires in U.S. history. "188 workers lost their lives, while 469 others were injured in the deadliest industrial factory fire in history. Many were trapped inside the building because emergency exits were locked, missing, or impossible to reach. How did an ordinary workday become one of the world's worst workplace disasters? The Cater Toy Factory fire occurred on May 10, 1993, in Nakhon Pathom Province, Thailand. A fire broke out inside a toy factory filled with highly combustible materials. As the flames spread rapidly, many workers were unable to escape. Workers were reportedly told the fire was minor, while the building's fire alarm failed to sound. Emergency exits were inadequate or locked, and some workers jumped from the upper floors as the building collapsed before firefighters could fully control the blaze. When the fire was extinguished, 188 people had lost their lives, and 469 others were injured. Most of the victims were young factory workers. "289 people lost their lives, while another 270 were injured in the deadliest subway disaster in history. But most of the victims were not killed by the flames. They were overcome by toxic smoke after becoming trapped inside a train deep in an underground tunnel. How did an ordinary commute end in such a devastating tragedy? The Baku Metro fire occurred on October 28, 1995, in the Baku Metro, Azerbaijan. An electrical malfunction caused a fire aboard a crowded subway train, forcing it to stop inside a tunnel. Thick smoke quickly filled the train and the confined underground passage, leaving passengers with little chance to escape. As visibility disappeared and panic spread, many passengers struggled to find their way through the smoke-filled tunnel. Most victims died from carbon monoxide poisoning and suffocation, while others were injured during the chaotic evacuation. When the rescue operation ended, 289 people had lost their lives, and 270 others were injured, making it the deadliest subway fire in history. The disaster led to major improvements in subway fire safety, including fire-resistant train materials, better tunnel ventilation, and stronger emergency evacuation procedures to help prevent similar tragedies. 100 people lost their lives, while more than 230 others were injured in one of the deadliest nightclub fires in American history. But the flames weren't the only reason so many people died. Thick, toxic smoke, combustible interior materials, and a crowded exit left hundreds fighting for their lives. How did a concert that lasted only minutes end in such a devastating tragedy? The Station nightclub fire occurred on February 20, 2003, in West Warwick, Rhode Island, USA. The disaster claimed 100 lives and injured more than 230 people after a fire broke out during a live rock concert. It became one of the deadliest nightclub fires in U.S. history. Just seconds after the band Great White began its performance, indoor pyrotechnics ignited highly combustible acoustic foam lining the walls. The fire spread rapidly, filling the nightclub with thick, toxic smoke. As panic erupted, most patrons rushed toward the main entrance, creating a deadly bottleneck while other exits were underused or difficult to access. When the fire was finally extinguished, 100 people had lost their lives, and more than 230 others were injured. Most of the victims died from smoke inhalation and burns after becoming trapped near the main exit. 192 people lost their lives, while more than 150 others were injured in one of the deadliest subway fires in history. But it wasn't the flames that trapped most of the victims. It was the thick, toxic smoke that quickly filled the underground station. How did a single act of arson turn an ordinary commute into a devastating tragedy? The Daegu subway fire occurred on February 18, 2003, at Junggangno Station in Daegu, South Korea. An arsonist ignited a flammable liquid inside a subway train, and within minutes, the fire spread to a second train. Dense smoke rapidly filled the station and tunnels, trapping hundreds of passengers. As panic spread, evacuation became difficult due to communication failures, delayed emergency decisions, and train doors that could not be operated on one of the trains. Most victims were overcome by toxic smoke before they could escape. When the fire was finally extinguished, 192 people had lost their lives and more than 150 were injured. It remains the deadliest peacetime mass casualty incident in modern South Korean history. The tragedy led to major improvements in South Korea's subway safety, including fire-resistant train interiors, better emergency evacuation procedures, improved smoke control systems, and enhanced staff training. "242 people lost their lives, while more than 630 others were injured in one of the deadliest nightclub fires in history. But it wasn't the flames that claimed most of the victims. Thick, toxic smoke filled the nightclub within minutes, turning the only practical exit into a deadly bottleneck. The Kiss nightclub fire occurred on January 27, 2013 in Santa Maria, Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil. The disaster claimed 242 lives and injured more than 630 people after a fire broke out during a university student event. It remains the second deadliest fire disaster in Brazil's history. During a live performance, a pyrotechnic device ignited highly combustible acoustic foam attached to the ceiling. The fire spread rapidly, filling the nightclub with dense, toxic smoke. Panic quickly erupted as hundreds of people rushed toward the club's only practical exit, making escape nearly impossible for many. When the fire was finally extinguished, 242 people had lost their lives, while more than 630 others were injured. Most of the victims died from smoke inhalation, not burns, after toxic gases quickly filled the building. 67 people lost their lives, while 222 others were injured during what was supposed to be a New Year's celebration. But the fire alone wasn't what made this tragedy so deadly. Locked exits, highly combustible materials, and overcrowding left hundreds of partygoers with little chance to escape. The Santika Club fire occurred on January 1, 2009 in Bangkok, Thailand. The disaster claimed 67 lives and injured 222 others after a fire broke out during New Year's celebrations. It remains one of Thailand's worst nightclub fires and exposed major failures in fire safety and building regulations. At around 12:35 a.m., a fire erupted while a live band was performing, and hundreds of people were celebrating the new year. The blaze spread rapidly through highly combustible materials, filling the club with flames and thick smoke. Panic quickly followed as many patrons found exits blocked or unusable, making escape extremely difficult. When the fire was finally extinguished, 67 people had lost their lives, and 222 others were injured. Many victims died from burns, smoke inhalation, or injuries sustained during the desperate rush to escape. "72 people lost their lives in one of the deadliest residential fires in modern British history. What started as a small kitchen fire quickly engulfed a 24-story apartment building, trapping families inside as flames raced up the exterior. The Grenfell Tower fire occurred on June 14, 2017 in West London, England. The disaster claimed 72 lives after a fire rapidly spread throughout the 24-story residential tower. The fire began in a fourth-floor apartment before reaching the building's combustible exterior cladding and insulation. Once the flames reached the outside of the tower, they spread rapidly from floor to floor. Thick smoke soon filled the building, trapping many residents inside their apartments while others desperately searched for a safe way out. Within minutes of the first emergency call, firefighters from the London Fire Brigade arrived and immediately launched rescue operations. Fire crews entered the smoke-filled tower, climbing floor after floor to search for trapped residents, while other teams attacked the fire from outside using aerial ladder platforms and high-pressure hose lines. Firefighters faced extreme heat, thick smoke, falling debris, and flames spreading rapidly along the building's exterior. Despite these dangerous conditions, they continued rescuing residents throughout the night, carrying many people to safety and battling one of the most challenging high-rise fires in the brigade's history. When the fire was finally brought under control, 72 people had lost their lives. Many victims were unable to escape as smoke and flames spread rapidly through the high-rise building. 36 people lost their lives, while 34 others were injured in one of Japan's deadliest crimes since World War II. But it wasn't an accident that caused this tragedy. A single act of arson turned one of the world's most respected animation studios into a deadly inferno. How did an ordinary workday end in such devastating loss? The Kyoto animation arson attack occurred on July 18, 2019, at Kyoto Animation Studio 1 in Kyoto, Japan. The attack claimed 36 lives and injured 34 others, making it one of the deadliest crimes in modern Japanese history and sending shockwaves throughout the global animation industry. On the morning of July 18th, a man entered the studio carrying approximately 40 liters of gasoline. He poured the fuel near the building's entrance before setting it on fire, triggering an explosion and a rapidly spreading blaze. The flames and thick smoke quickly engulfed the three-story building, trapping many employees inside as they desperately tried to reach the rooftop. Emergency calls brought firefighters from the Kyoto City Fire Department to the scene within minutes. Crews immediately began search and rescue operations while battling intense flames and heavy smoke that had engulfed the studio. Firefighters entered the damaged building as soon as conditions allowed, searching each floor for survivors and evacuating the injured. The fire was eventually brought under control, but the speed of the blaze and the severe fire conditions made rescue efforts extremely difficult. When the fire was extinguished, 36 people had lost their lives, while 34 others were injured, including the attacker. Many of the victims died from severe burns and smoke inhalation after becoming trapped inside the building. 17 people lost their lives, including 8 children, while more than 40 others were injured. But the flames never engulfed the entire building. Instead, thick smoke spread through the high-rise, turning hallways and stairwells into deadly traps. How did a fire contained to a single apartment claim so many lives? The Bronx apartment fire occurred on January 9, 2022, at the Twin Parks Northwest apartment building in the Bronx, New York City. The tragedy claimed 17 lives, including 8 children, and injured more than 40 people. The fire started in a third-floor duplex apartment after a malfunctioning space heater ignited a fire. Although firefighters were able to keep most of the flames confined to the apartment, thick smoke spread rapidly throughout the 19-story building because apartment and stairwell doors remained open. As residents tried to evacuate, many were overcome by the smoke before reaching safety. Within minutes of receiving emergency calls, firefighters from the fire department of the city of New York arrived and launched an aggressive rescue operation. Crews climbed smoke-filled stairwells, searched apartments floor by floor, and carried children and adults to safety. Firefighters battled near zero visibility, intense smoke, and exhausted residents as they rescued dozens of people from the building. Despite their rapid response, the widespread smoke made the operation extremely challenging and left many victims unconscious before they could be reached. When the emergency response concluded, 17 people had lost their lives, including 8 children, while more than 40 others were injured, many critically. Most of the victims died from smoke inhalation rather than burns, highlighting the deadly danger of smoke in high-rise buildings.